Hey, what's happening, guys? What's going on YouTube? You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the new $600 reporting requirement from the IRS. I'm guessing since you guys are into e-commerce and online business and selling things on eBay and Amazon, I'm guessing most of you guys are somewhat familiar with this rule or have heard about the rule. If you haven't, just a quick recap is in the past, the only way that eBay would issue you, say, for example, a 1099, is if you sold over $20,000 worth of goods and you sold over 200 items. So if you sold $10,000 worth of goods and did 300 transactions, eBay is not eBay/PayPal, or I guess now eBay/Adyen, since that's their in-house payment processor. eBay/Adyen will not be sending a 1099 to the IRS. Also, if you do $22,000 in sales, but it's only 100 transactions, eBay is not going to issue, or I guess I should say eBay would not have issued a 1099 to you in the past. Well, as part of the CARES Act, back in, I believe it was 2020 or 2021, Biden and the Democrats put forth a new law that basically if you have $600 go through a payment processor over the course of a year, they're going to issue you a 1099. Doesn't matter how many transactions you did, and it's only $600. $600 is a pretty small amount of money. Now, obviously there's been a lot of backlash about this from pretty much all Americans, and it's really kind of a slap in the face because we were told that this is being done to quote-unquote make sure billionaires and the wealthy pay their fair share, and to go after wealthy tax cheats. Do you think wealthy people and billionaires are making their money or cheating taxes $600 at a time through Venmo and PayPal and Zelle? Probably pretty unlikely. What this is actually going to do is go after tiny micro businesses, go after 17-year-old kids who are selling their old iPhone or their old PlayStation on eBay. A lot of people are going to be overtaxed because if you buy a PlayStation for $1,200 and sell it for $600, you technically do not owe taxes on that transaction. But eBay/Adyen, or in the past PayPal, they're going to send a 1099 to the government and say, you know, this 18-year-old kid, Jared, he made $600. Well, then it's upon Jared to be able to provide a receipt from this PlayStation he bought 5 years ago. Say, no, I bought the PlayStation 5 years ago for $1,200. I'm selling it for $600. I didn't turn a profit. I don't owe taxes on this. It's basically going to take a bunch of people who maybe did their taxes in the past, and make them uncomfortable doing their taxes now. So they're going to have to pay somebody to do their taxes, or at the very least, they're going to have to pay for an upgraded version of TurboTax to do their taxes. And because a lot of people don't understand the tax code and don't understand tax laws, they're just going to get something that says you owe taxes on $600, and they're just going to pay it, even though in reality they don't owe taxes on over $600. Now, this, I think I may have already pointed this out. This passed with all Democrat votes. Not a single Republican voted for it. I don't like either party, but I think it's fair to kind of lay the blame where it deserves to lay here. So, again, there's been a lot of backlash from the American people. Companies like eBay and payment processors are lobbying against this rule. Obviously, eBay feels like this may deter or intimidate some people from selling on their platform. If you have a used cell phone or an old PlayStation or an old Xbox that you want to sell, and you have the option of selling on eBay where it's going to complicate your taxes, or you could just sell it on Facebook or OfferUp or Craigslist and get cash and not pay any taxes at all, well, what do you think people are going to do? So obviously a lot of people are going to turn away from companies like eBay, and are going to use, something local like Facebook Marketplace to sell on. Maybe a little bit less convenient, but people are going to do that. So everybody has realized that this was a terrible idea and people hate it. So there's two bills being passed. Now, the Democrats who passed this and are now having buyer's remorse about it, they are trying to pass an act right now called the Cut Red Tape for Online Sales Act, and what they want to do is raise the limit to $5,000. What the Republicans are passing, I thought the name of this bill is hilarious. The Republicans are trying to pass a bill, or I guess an act, called the Stop Nosy Obsession with Online Payments Act of 2022. And they basically want to get rid of this rule entirely and go back to the system where in order to get a 1099, you have to do over 200 transactions and $20,000. Now, one interesting thing about this story or this rule, this will not apply to Chase QuickPay or Zelle. So one thing I would recommend if you oftentimes go out to eat with friends and, maybe 10, 12 of you guys go out to eat, it's an expensive bill, $600 bill, and, everybody winds up, sending you $50 or $100 to pay you back for dinner. It would be smart to do this through something like QuickPay or Zelle, as opposed to doing it through, say, PayPal. Now, technically speaking, and from what we're being told, using PayPal and some of these other services, they're going to be able to differentiate between a payment between friends and a sales transaction. One thing that I've noticed, and I'm not 100% positive about this, but I'm pretty sure this is the case. If you have a PayPal business account, which if you guys sell things online, if you've ever had to make PayPal buttons to put on a website, oftentimes I believe they require you to have a PayPal business account to do this. If your friend is trying to pay you back for dinner and they send it to a business account, it will not even give them the option to send to send a payment as a friend. I think PayPal and maybe the IRS have decided if you have a business account, everything you're doing in this account is business, so you shouldn't be getting personal reimbursements. So, if you have a business account, you may want to set up another account just as kind of a casual personal account. Or you just may decide not to use PayPal at all, because remember we had talked a while back about how PayPal had rolled out that $2,500 fine if you break any of their rules or spread misinformation. They said it was an accident. They took it out of their policy. They wound up putting it back in. So maybe you just want to avoid PayPal altogether. But if you are a PayPal user or if you are going to continue using PayPal, I'd recommend using an account that's not a business account, because I had a friend recently try to pay me back. And he was like, that's weird. It's not even giving me the option to send it as a friend. Here's another problem is, when people are sending payments to you, not everyone knows what they're doing. Not everyone's paying a lot of attention. And to my knowledge, PayPal doesn't even necessarily have an option to say, this is a tax-free payment or something like that. Here's one of the most ridiculous, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but here's one of the most ridiculous things about this. If you wind up receiving a 1099K from PayPal or some other payment processor, what the IRS wants you to do, to right the situation is contact the person who sent you a payment. Tell them, hey, you sent this payment incorrectly. It should have been, sent or reported as this, and you actually sent it as this. So you're supposed to go back to all of these people who have sent you payments, and ask them to kind of like correct the payment with PayPal or rectify that on their end. First off, there is no system for doing that. And second off, are you really going to be running around to every friend that you had dinner with last year and asking them, hey, could you redo that PayPal payment or recategorize that PayPal payment? Even if you are a business dealing with a supplier or dealing with other businesses, you don't always get people to go out of their way to do extra little things for you. So if you contact your supplier and say, hey, all of these payments, you issued me a couple refunds this year and the payments were processed incorrectly. Can you have your payroll department fix this? And if you can't get people to fix it, well, now you have to, you can't digitally file or electronically file your taxes. You actually have to go back and you have to do your taxes on paper, and you have to write an explanation of why the 1099K is incorrect. So you guys can kind of see what a giant fucking headache that this is turning into. I kind of haven't even gotten into my notes here, so let's kind of go back and kind of go step by step through this. So again, new $600 reporting requirement. If you receive $600 or more from third parties like Venmo, PayPal, etc., you're going to be issued a 1099K. I kind of touched on this earlier, but I don't think I really explained it. This will not apply to Chase QuickPay or Zelle because those are considered bank transfers. I don't know if you're going to see a flurry of people start using those for payments as opposed to PayPal because it's, quote unquote tax free, or at least they're not going to snitch on you to the IRS. The problem with that is buyers don't get any protection through those services. So, buyers have a much greater chance of being scammed. Let's see, you will receive this 1099K whether you expect it or not. So do not ignore it because, it's not just going to you and you throw it in the garbage and it disappears. One copy is being sent to you and another copy is being sent to the IRS. And this is all done automatically and digitally. Let's see. If you wind up ignoring this, you will trigger either an IRS letter or an IRS audit. And again, just to recap, previously the threshold was 20K and 200 transactions. What's different now is they're lowering that to $600 with no transaction count. This was passed, again, by the Democrats back in March of 2021, and it's going to begin in 2022, so in just a couple of weeks. Not a single Republican voted for it, but it passed with 0 Republican votes. Democrats said they needed this to crack down on wealthy tax cheats, right? That's just kind of, we hear the word gaslighting a lot. That's kind of gaslighting, as if any wealthy tax cheats are moving money $600 a time through PayPal. Why this is a dumb idea. So the IRS is focusing people and resources on people making a $600 side income. We know that the IRS is already understaffed. They're already stretched thin. They don't even answer their phones. Yet they have time to waste their time pursuing people over $600. Even though a lot of the IRS processes are automated, because you're going to have to file a paper tax return, and because you're going to have to include an explanation, somebody's going to have to manually process those tax returns, and somebody's going to have to read your explanation. So, again, we're ignoring the wealthy tax cheats and the billionaires to go after the 18-year-old kid who sold an iPhone who likely does not even owe taxes on that transaction. Let's see here. Okay, so I think we've kind of covered most of this story. One other thing I just wanted to add, with the IRS, the burden of proof is on you. You may have to dig up receipts from years past. If you bought a couch 10 years ago for $3,000 and then recently sold it on, sold it and took an electronic payment to where it's going to be reported to the IRS for, say, $800. Technically, you don't owe taxes, but that's if you can find the receipt from 10 years ago to prove you paid $3,000 and only sold it for $800. So you're guilty until proven innocent. This isn't like the court of law. And according to the IRS, if you don't have that receipt, or if you can't find the receipt, well, then as far as they're concerned, you paid $0 for that couch. This is kind of getting a little bit deeper into the story, but I think previously, this kind of acted as kind of a de facto, we're kind of willing to look the other way. I think in the U.S., technically speaking, if every dollar you make, the IRS makes their cut of, right? We all know that. In reality, is someone having, I guess most garage sales, probably don't owe taxes. But, if your kid sets up a lemonade stand in the front yard and makes $20 selling lemonade, technically they owe taxes on that. Is anybody really going to pay taxes on that? No. And, honestly, the government's probably kind of okay with that. In all seriousness, we do see the government going after lemonade stands these days, which is kind of silly, and it kind of makes headlines because it is silly. But you guys kind of get the point there. So, taxes are the number one reason that small businesses go out of business. Our tax system is incredibly complicated. I think the tax system and the worry of taxes for making money actually causes some, young entrepreneurs, small businesses, people who are new to business. I think it kind of intimidates them away from getting into business, away from trying to make money, because they're worried they're going to wind up being over their head in taxes. So what this $20,000 200 transaction limit kind of did, it allowed somebody to kind of start a micro business or a side business. And even though technically they should be paying taxes, if they're unorganized or they don't really know what they're doing, or they just don't know any better, it's not necessarily going to be a huge deal if they do $10,000 in sales and don't wind up paying taxes for it, right? They're not going to go to prison. They're not going to get an IRS audit. It's not going to be a huge deal. And I think in some ways that kind of enabled people to kind of start these small businesses. And once the business grew and they kind of got more serious about it and they started making over $20,000, well, now they have to pay taxes, but you kind of gave them a leg up and kind of gave them a little bit of a head start to get started in business. Now, you can say that that's right or wrong. No, everybody should pay taxes on every penny of income earned. But, we have a lot of laws, right? Marijuana is illegal, but, people smoke marijuana everywhere, and it's not really a priority for the government to go after them. That's kind of how I see this $20,000 200 limit rule. It was kind of like, we're not too worried about you. We're willing to kind of look the other way. Once your business grows larger, though, we will be hearing about how much you're making, and you will owe taxes on it. So, let me know your guys' thoughts on that. Do you think that's kind of a good thing that kind of encourages people to start businesses and get started? Or, are people wrong if they, I don't think anybody should necessarily purposely avoid taxes, but if you're unorganized or you're some 18-year-old kid starting a business, I think that kind of lets you get started with a little bit less intimidation, for lack of a better word. At this point, I think we're kind of rambling, so we're going to kind of wrap the video up. But again, this was passed back in March of 2021. Everyone's kind of realized it's a terrible idea all along. And now, at the 11 o'clock hour, just a couple weeks before 2021, politicians on both sides are scrambling, trying to figure out how to get rid of this law. Here's ultimately what I think will wind up happening. I think there's a very good chance nothing will happen, and this will go into law. What I think more likely is going to happen is the Democrats are going to pass this Cut Red Tape for Online Sales Act. They're going to raise the limit to 5K. Even though it used to be 20K and 200 transactions, at least it's raised from $600 to 5K. Online sellers and companies like eBay are all kind of getting fucked by this. But at the end, the Democrats are going to rush in and, act like saviors and say, hey, guys, we saved the day. We raised this up to 5K, even though it should be 20K and 200 transactions. I'd love to hear how you guys see this playing out. So go ahead and drop a comment in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below and ring the bell. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.